Yes, Isaac Bunu, formerly of the Hawks. Stephen, you may remember we had a state witness who went AWOL in Butterworth. His wife couldn't get hold of him. That, in fact, was Bunu. He's now been fined and is testifying under oath and undergoing cross-examination. Bunu has given details on the Hawks' engagements with Free State government officials in agriculture and rural development to acquire certain key pieces of evidence. And there's the catch, because it's turned out that a key document bearing the signatures of Peter Tabete, former department head of agriculture in a Free State, amongst others, wasn't kept in the evidence bag. It was in fact lumped in with other paperwork in the docket, and this has raised questions about the veracity of the actual papers. In fact, Kenny Oldwage for Dinesh Patel, one of the accused from the private sector, allegedly working to help the Guptas move allegedly more laundered money around, said that imagine it was a gun. Imagine that you had a gun in an evidence bag and it got taken out, got other fingerprints on it, and then got shoved back in the bag again. I'm paraphrasing, Stephen, you understand, but the point really is that this critical piece of evidence in the state capture criminal trial has been sullied, goes the version of the defense, and not only that, the veracity of the document as it stands and the signatures on it is also under question.
Earlier, the cross-examination of a senior financial investigator came to an end. How did it end?
Well, I'm sure that the lawyer for Ronica Raghavan, one of the key Gupta associates high up in their business hierarchy, would say triumphantly. We'll have to wait for the outcome of this state capture criminal trial. But Advocate Mike Helen, senior counsel, in painstaking cross-examination of Tesele Rankuatsana, that senior finance investigator for the ID of the NPA, really drilling down into the paperwork and arguing that the financial report on the monies involved here within the Gupta's business network or business matrix was less than careful, that it was driven by an agenda informed by the Hawks, because Rankuatsana himself had actually previously worked at the Hawks and had quite a number of engagements with Mandla Mtolo of the Hawks, the key Hawks figure driving the state capture case for that institution, and really kind of bringing into question how careful and clear the evidence is here in terms of money flows to prove this charge of money laundering. Of course, money laundering involves the hiding of dirty monies. Your first challenge there is showing the money is indeed dirty, in other words, that a fraud has taken place, and then that it was moved in a surreptitious way. Helen's saying time and again that the money flows, the financial flows here, were an established pattern of loan repayments and borrowing within Gupta groups or Gupta companies in its group, and that in other cases it was the payment for goods and services. Everything above board goes the argument, Stephen, nothing fishy here, and no one's liable for any wrongdoing.
And then a lot of conversation around an email from April 2012. Why does this matter?
Well, this matters, Stephen, because it emerged during the closing, sort of final re-examination of Rankuatsana, and begs some questions about the submissions we had from Helen's. We had Advocate Peter Sarunye, he's a state prosecutor in this case, bringing up an email from a Sahara email address for a Yugeshni Naidu, who we may find is actually Yugeshni Govender. Now, she was a director of Sahara at some point. Remember, Sahara Computers and the group Sahara, a big player for the Gupta's business network in South Africa with other little companies underneath it. She emailed the Bank of Baroda in April of 2012. She attached a PDF letter from Nulane Investments and seemingly signed by Ravinder Nath, another Gupta associate, in which Nath asks the Bank of Baroda to pay Pragat, a Gupta-linked company. Now, why does this matter? To make it very clear, Helens has made the case that the Gupta-linked companies didn't know what Nulane Investments was doing with the Free State government, or indeed with Pragat, and that Pragat was in the mix with the Gupta's companies in its Absa Cash focus group because they trusted the director of Pragat because he had other business ties with the Gupta's full family or tree of companies. And so what's key about this email is that it shows an insider at Sahara, one of the giants in the Gupta's business hierarchy, writing to a bank and attaching a letter from a company which we're being told the family group really had nothing to do with. That's the company Nulane Investments that had this agreement with the Free State government to do that high-level feasibility or due diligence report, which is really the crux of this case. So lots of moving parts, but we're starting to see some key pieces of evidence in the case of that email, one that beggars belief in terms of Helen's submissions to try and annihilate the idea of the NPA's financial evidence and exonerate the Guptas and Raghavan, but then also in the case of that document, which was not in proper custody as a piece of evidence in an evidence bag. It's all coming up to air in this high court case.
Erin Bates, thank you very much indeed. In court for you, of course, on the Nulane Investments trial.